Maybe Graham's mother had jumped the gun a bit. Maybe she should have backed down and let the police deal with finding her missing son. It probably would have saved her a decent amount of trouble. It definitely would have allowed her to avoid the whole kidnap and torture situation. But then who would be looking for Graham? Plus, she had a sneaking suspicion one of those police officers would have blamed for her son's disappearance. Her suspicion wasn't airtight, but it was still something. There was a voice in her head telling her that it didn't make sense that Graham would just run away. Someone must have taken him. Someone who was strong enough to scare a boy who did not frighten easily. Graham's mother tried telling the police her theory, but she was brushed off as a hysteric mother. She let out a frustrated sigh, knowing full well that nobody else cared enough to solve this case. Just because she and her son were different from the perfect suburban couples of her wrote did not mean they deserved any less. Graham's mother knew if one of those other kids went missing, the entire town would tear itself to shreds to find them. No matter though, she had more important things to focus on right now, like getting information out of this forensic examiner from the police station. Now, she said, hovering another nail over the bloodied shoulder of her latest hostage. Are you going to tell me what I want to know? Please, please, I'm begging you, please stop. I've told you everything I know. He pleaded as if the word please could satisfy this mother's anger. I find that very difficult to believe, so I suggest you start spilling your guts before I spill them for you. Graham's mother warned before quickly plunging the nail into his shoulder. That should persuade him to start talking. A few more well-placed nails got him exactly where she wanted. He not only confirmed her suspicions about the corrupt police, but gave her a name as well. Ben Wolf. He's a private detective and Herote's golden boy. The forensic examiner claimed Ben was in charge of her son's case, but hadn't reported any new leads or evidence in weeks. The staff at the police station all believed Graham had simply run away from his crazy mother. They figured why waste time and resources looking for a kid who didn't want to be found. For a quick second, Graham's mother considered the possibility of letting her hostage go free. Though as helpful the information provided was, she couldn't risk him spoiling her plan. It was best if she left no witnesses. Graham's mother's eyes followed the smears of blood on the walls and floor, dizziness and nausea clouding her mind. Maybe it was the sleep deprivation, or the weight of everything she's done since this all began. Other people would have felt guilt from what she was doing. She wanted to feel bad, but she couldn't. She needed answers that could only come by force and violence. She told herself these people deserved what they were getting. Maybe it didn't matter if she became the villain, as long as Graham was found. The Bloody Viking was a combination of everything Graham's mother hated in the world. Alcohol, careless drunks, and overpriced appetizers. She was willing to look past the $10 basket of onion rings and the overpowering stench of booze if it meant getting one step closer to finding her son. Through some careful observations and a few instances of snooping through trash cans, she tracked down Ben Wolf to this very rundown bar off of the freeway. He wasn't exactly difficult to find. This brute of a man lived a very regimented lifestyle. She'd only been tracking him for 2 days and already had an exact schedule of his day-to-day activities. Mornings were spent working out and swimming. Afternoons alternated between secret meetings with the mayor's wife and doing work for his actual detective job. Evenings were always spent here, where he got wasted enough to never notice Graham's mother following him home. A quick glance toward the clock on the wall told Graham's mother it was almost 9 o'clock. It would only be a matter of minutes before Ben showed up. Once he arrived, she could start enacting her plan to get some answers. She couldn't exactly try and kidnap him, he was much too strong. Getting him blackout drunk was probably the best option. That way, he won't remember her or anything he said the next morning. She had to be clever and trick him into telling her what she needed to hear. If only she knew what that was. 20 minutes later, and Ben still hadn't shown up. Graham's mother knew something must have happened. Someone must have told him her plan, or he saw her stalking him. She tried so hard to remain unremarkable, to avoid suspicion. Change of plans. If he won't come to her, she'll have to go to him. She'll look in all of his hiding places. The mayor's house, the gym, the pool, the police station, his house. He has to be in one of those places. Graham's mother didn't spend the last 2 days digging through trash cans to give up this early into the night. She was going home with answers, or she wasn't going home at all. She didn't think Ben would be at the mayor's house this late in the evening. He prefers to visit when the mayor's wife, Willa, was home alone without her husband and son standing guard. Yet Graham's mother had this strange feeling telling her to check anyway. There was something off about the air that night, a type of electric energy that hints towards a major change happening in the universe, a type of planetary shift in the cosmos, a type of feeling she should not ignore. For as Graham's mother sat at the Bloody Viking, another child went missing into the dark night, a child very different from her own, one who would change the tide of this whole investigation. He was a child the entire town would tear to shreds to find. By the time Graham's mother reached the mayor's office, the citizens of Herote had set up camp outside. The crowd was a symphony of noise. Police sirens rang loudly to accompany the steady drone of local news reporters and the frantic murmur of concerned neighbors. Even with all that noise, Graham's mother could barely hear the chaos around her. Instead, she could only focus on the sole voice of Willa Shields. Flanked by her husband Holt on one side and Ben Wolfe on the other, the mayor's wife wept silent tears as she spoke to the nearest camera crew. People of Herote, it is in times like these that we must rally together. When I went upstairs to tuck in my son for bed, I found his bed empty and the window open. He has never run away before, so I fear someone has taken him. If anyone saw or heard something, please tell us. Please, I just want my baby back home. Willa brushed another tear from her face as Ben Wolfe took her place. If anyone has any information regarding the disappearance of Hugh Shields, please notify the local police department or me directly. I promise Mrs. Shields and the entire town of Herote that I will find this missing boy. We will not let this become a tragedy. I promise. Good night. Graham's mother didn't know how to feel. It was upsetting that another child was missing, but she was angry the town was focusing so much on Willa's son and not her own. Graham had been missing for 7 days, and not one news crew ever showed up to her house. She knew the two boys couldn't have been more different from each other. Hugh lived a life of privilege. Everything he ever wanted was given to him on a silver platter. His parents had wanted children for such a long time, but were unable to conceive. Once Willa found out she was pregnant, Hugh became their miracle baby, perfect in every way, unable to do any wrong. Graham wasn't as warmly welcomed into this world. He was still loved by his mother, but he wasn't exactly planned. The result of a blurry night with an unnamed man. Graham was also a difficult child. He was quick to anger and become upset. Graham's mother tried to push normal activities onto him like soccer or music lessons, but every time he'd heard a simple tune, he would burst into fits of rage, destroying everything in his path until the music stopped. His self-chosen interests were unique at best. Graham's mother would often come home to presents of dead animals on her bed, their wounds still oozing blood. A few times the poor creatures would be twitching on the verge of life and death before she put them out of their misery. Any attempt to curb this odd behavior wasn't received well. Graham's mother figured it would simply pass with time, if only she knew. For the disappearance of Hugh Shield wasn't a simple case of a runaway child, nor had he been lying in bed waiting for his mother to kiss him goodnight. His mother was actually downstairs having a screaming match with his father as Hugh vanished, an argument on a certain police detective whom neighbors spotted frequently the driveway a little too often. Hugh didn't want to hear any of that. No child does. So he propped his bedroom window open, trying to drown out the yelling with chirping crickets and hooting owls. Those animals can only cover a certain decibel of sound, though. When the noises of Herote failed him, he turned toward the baby piano sitting in the corner of his room. His fingers flew across the keys, losing track of time. Everything faded around him. All that existed was the music. Hugh became so enthralled that he didn't even hear the person climb through his window. He didn't even notice the stranger standing behind him, bathing in the pale glow of the moon. Tonight was the night. She could feel it deep within her bones. Graham's mother would not only find her son, but Willa's as well. She could imagine the headlines now. Heroic mother uncovers police corruption while rescuing missing boys. They'll show everyone she belongs in this town just as much as they do. Just because she doesn't enjoy brunch or PTA meetings doesn't mean she isn't a good mother. Her neighbors will stop looking down on her for being a single unwed mother. She'll be the best mother this town has ever seen. The only person standing in her way was Ben Wolfe. Now that Willa was involved and his face was on every news station, he won't rest until he became the hero of this story. Graham's mother just had to stay one step ahead of him. She was not going to let him take credit for all her hard work. The first step was determining how to remain ahead. She doesn't have the resources the police have. They could get a call on their radio and be anywhere in minutes thanks to their cars. The cars. That's what Graham's mother needs. She needs a police car. That way she can hear everything Ben hears and can get there just as fast. Graham's mother surveyed the scene around her. It was still chaos. Police officers were being questioned left and right by concerned citizens. Willa Shield was sobbing onto the shoulder of Ben Wolfe as her husband stood by awkwardly. No one was paying attention to Graham's mother. The police cars were all parked on the end of the street. The sirens turned off long ago. She crept toward them, ready to bolt at any moment. As she approached the first car, she let a sigh of relief as no one came to stop her. A quick pull of the handle got her safely inside. No keys in the ignition, though. Graham's mother pulled out her pocket knife, hoping she still remembered how to hotwire a car. The steering column popped off easily. Now she had to find the right wires. Graham's mother desperately racked her brain, trying to remember. She held her breath as she tried her first set. The engine roared to life. Graham's mother was on her way to make things right. Driving down the main street of Heroic caused memories of Graham to flood her mind. She tried to focus on the good ones. There weren't a lot of those. Like the day she taught him how to ride a bike and he almost crashed into the newspaper delivery boy. Or when they brought bread to feed the ducks at the lake in Dragon Park. Graham didn't even throw a fit once. It was just one of those days he seemed like a real, happy kid. She misses him so much. He's only been gone a week, but it feels like it's been years. If she doesn't find him tonight, she doesn't know what she might do. Graham's mother decided the best place to park her stolen cop car was under the bridge across from the south entrance of Dragon Park. She remained out of view from anyone who might be out this late at night. It also allowed her to quickly get anywhere she needed to be. Just driving around town would be too suspicious, especially if anyone saw her. She simply had to wait here until she heard something on the radio, and then she could investigate. The darkness and the stillness of the world around Graham's mother proved to be very soothing as she fell into a light sleep. There's only so much a mother can deal with before she crashes. She'll need her rest for what is about to come. The static voice on the car radio startled Graham's mother from her sleep. It had been quiet all night. Not even one murmur from a search party, not one update from the investigation's fearless leader, not even anything about the stolen police car. She looked around groggily, trying to remember where she was. What she heard next would quickly bring her to her senses. All available officers, witnesses spotted two suspicious figures, one potentially matching the description of Hugh Shield, heading into the north entrance of Dragon Park, both on foot, no apparent weapons. Graham's mother bolted up in her seat. The other person could be Graham, but why was Graham with Hugh? It didn't matter as long as her son was safe. She practically leaped out of the car and started running into the park. If the other boy was really her son, he would be heading to the lake. It was the only place he liked there. Once they were reunited, life could return to normal. She wouldn't have to steal anything or kill anyone. She could be happy again. As she ran toward the lake, her heart started beating faster. She could see the boys on the shore. She stopped dead in her tracks as she saw one of them was lying down. The other was crouching next to him. Maybe her eyes were deceiving her. It was hard to see the opposite side of the lake in the darkness. They must be deceiving her, as it seemed like another figure was approaching from behind them. Graham's mother was still so far away. The third figure shouted something at the boys that Graham's mother couldn't hear. The boys didn't move. The figure yelled again, still no answer. Graham's mother started creeping around the lake by taking cover in the bushes surrounding it. She didn't want the unknown person to spot her in case they were the kidnapper. As she drew closer to their side of the lake, she could finally get a good look at what was happening. Hugh Shield lay on the ground, dead. Her son still crouching next to the body. The figure was still yelling as Graham stood up and reached for something in his jacket. He was turning toward the yelling stranger when he glimpsed his mother in the bushes. A grin spread across his face as a gunshot went off. Graham crumpled to the ground, still smiling. Time froze for Graham's mother. All she could see was that moment over and over again. Graham, gunshot, fall. Graham, gunshot, fall. Graham, gunshot, fall. It was like her own personal movie designed to torture her. She shut her eyes and hoped that when she opened them, she would be home safe with Graham. All of this would have just been a bad dream. Her eyes opened slowly to no avail. Her son was still lying dead next to the body of Hugh, both taken too soon from this world, and then she spotted him. Her eyes, having adjusted too late to the darkness, finally saw the identity of the third figure, Ben Wolf. He was standing a few feet away, triumphantly holding his gun. He probably thought he saved the day, that he was the hero, but he was wrong. Heroes don't kill children. Graham's mother decided he had to pay for what he's done. Tonight was the night Ben Wolf finally got what he deserved. Graham's mother rose quickly from her hiding place and pounced on her son's murderer. She pulled out a pocket knife. Now she would avenge her only son's death. But the strength of his bulletproof vest shielded her knife from Ben's back. He becomes wary of his attacker and gripped her shoulder to pull her to the ground. She rose quickly and retaliated, grasping him in a chokehold. Graham's mother could feel him stumbling. The great hero of Heroic would soon fall at the hands of a mother. As she rose her knife to take off his head, he gained a last wind of strength. This surprised Graham's mother, and she loosened her grip on him. Using this to his advantage, he regained the upper hand. He wrestled the blade from her, pushing her to the floor. Ben pinned Graham's mother down with his knees so she couldn't move. With one hand, he held her knife. The other was wrapped around her throat. Bending down so only she could hear, he whispered in her ear, "You thought you were so clever, trying to save the day before I did. But look what your actions did. You killed Hugh. You killed your son. Or maybe I did. All that matters is who tells the story. And by process of elimination, it looks like it'll have to be me. The news stations will go crazy when I tell them I killed the ones responsible for the death of the mayor's son, that I killed Graham and Graham's mother." Ben slowly lifted the knife, ready to savor every last second of this moment. Then, in one swoop, he plunged it into her chest. Graham's mother barely let out a sound. She would not let herself show any pain. He doesn't deserve the satisfaction. There was one thing she had to do, though. It was her last desire as she lay dying. She turned her head so that she was looking straight into the eyes of Ben Wolf. She mustered up as much strength as she could before she said, "My name is Lilith."